The top news and the best news of the day, an American prisoner of war rescued in Iraq. We'll get the details, we hope, on who that is and how it all went down from Central Command. And the other bit of breaking news, as headlined by Bret Baier tonight, the major ground offensive toward the city of Baghdad begins tonight. We'll get all the details as they've worked their way all the way from Kuwait there, as you can see on the map, up through the Karbala Gap. The Battle of Karbala will probably not be a quick one. We're told that this is a major offensive underway at this very moment. All the details from Central Command just moments away. In the meantime, the road to Baghdad shrouded in smoke. The smoke you're seeing billowing out of trenches dug by the Iraqis, then filled with oil by the Iraqis, then set on fire by the Iraqis. The Pentagon says they seem to think this will stop our bombers from finding their targets. It has not worked thus far, says the Pentagon. Today, Baghdad hits include an Iraqi Air Force officers club and Iraq's Olympic headquarters, which are said to double as a torture chamber used by one of Saddam's sons. Our Team Fox coverage continues on Operation Iraqi Freedom. Chris Klein live in northern Iraq. Jim Engel live at the White House. First, Greg Palkot live tonight outside our newsroom in Amman, Jordan. Greg.
Day, Shepard, as the war in Iraq continues, so do questions about the Iraqi leader. First, the bombing in Baghdad. It is said to be constant right now, especially along the southern outskirts of the city. That, of course, is where it is believed Republican Guard units are dug in for that final defense of the Iraqi capital, as well as hits further south, more Republican Guard strongholds in those cities of Al-Qut and Karbala. That's where Bret just explained there are some big battles going on at this very moment. Meanwhile, Iraqi President Saddam Hussein sent out a tough new message to the Iraqi people today, but it was read by Iraq's information minister on state television. It had been earlier indicated that Saddam himself would address the nation. He's only done that twice since hostilities began. There, of course, is a lot of speculation about his health and about his whereabouts. No explanation about why he didn't show up. Still, in that statement, the Iraqi president called for a holy war against the U.S. and British invaders.
Kill them everywhere, fight them everywhere, like you're fighting today. Don't give them the chance to take their breath or to mobilize so that they are defeated and withdraw and condemned.
Here in Jordan, there are reports of a thwarted alleged Iraqi terror plot. In fact, two of them. One, a plan to blow up a hotel right here in Amman used by Americans, including journalists. 4 Iraqis have been detained in connection with that plot, as well as another plan to contaminate the water supply used by U.S. troops at a base near the border with Iraq. Finally, crossing the border into the relative safety of Jordan tonight, 4 journalists missing and held in a Baghdad jail for a week, including 2 staffers for the newspaper Newsday. The Iraqis didn't say why they took these people into custody. They only asked them if they worked for the CIA. I was at that jail outside of Baghdad last fall. I can tell you it is not a pretty place to spend a week. Shep.
Greg Palkot live tonight in Amman, Jordan. The state-run television station in Baghdad announcing today that Saddam Hussein would address the nation. Prime time there, 8 p.m. there. Speech from the Iraqi dictator. Would have been proof he's alive, but it didn't happen. Instead, the information minister reading a statement, attack the infidels, kill them by any means available, jihad, all that. But why advertise Saddam and not deliver?
Particularly today, after they advertised, Al Jazeera did report it, that Saddam Hussein would himself address the Iraqi people, and he failed to show up. It does raise interesting questions.
Interesting at least. The thing is, Saddam Hussein has not been seen on live television since the war began. Could today's statement, with the big buildup, have been some signal to Iraqi forces? And where is the dictator himself? Our Team Fox coverage continues with America at War, live to the senior White House correspondent Jim Engel. Jim, if you can answer those questions, you've earned your pay today.
Not likely, Shep, but I'll tell you, at first it seemed that several days of trying to shame Saddam Hussein into showing himself might have succeeded. But as you said, instead of Saddam live on TV, we got his information minister reading a statement from Saddam.
Seize it, O apples of my eye, and the eyes of Iraq and the nation. It is the chance to achieve eternity, an unmatched honor. Hit them. Fight them. They are evil aggressors damned by God. You are victorious, and they are defeated.
But Saddam's failure to appear in person stoked already deep suspicions in the administration that he is either grievously wounded or dead.
We don't know, because we do not know. The fact that he failed to show up for his scheduled appearance today raises additional questions.
Nobody knows where Saddam Hussein is. If he's alive or dead or his sons, I don't know.
But Secretary Rumsfeld did note that the war began with a cruise missile and bombing strike on a bunker where Saddam and his sons were believed to be spending the night.
And they have not been heard from since. The fact that Saddam Hussein did not show up for his televised speech today is interesting.
And Rumsfeld suggested there is no reason to hyperventilate about it, that in good time we'll know whether Saddam Hussein is alive or dead. Rumsfeld also said Iraqi officials are spreading rumors the coalition is negotiating a ceasefire with Saddam. Rumors aimed at convincing Iraqis that, as he put it, the coalition does not intend to finish the job. But Rumsfeld, noting that his comments are heard inside Iraq, flatly rebutted that, saying that there is no one negotiating with the regime of Saddam Hussein. And he made a pledge to Iraqis, saying that there is no outcome to this war that would leave Saddam Hussein in power. Shep.
Jim Angle live tonight at the White House. Now, President Bush expressing regret over the killing of Iraqi civilians at a checkpoint yesterday. At least 7 Iraqi women and children killed after U.S. soldiers opened fire on the van in which they were traveling. U.S. Central Command says the vehicle ignored orders to stop. The White House saying the reality is here, suffering comes with war, but that most civilian casualties have been caused by Saddam Hussein and his followers. More signs now that Allied forces in Iraq are being threatened by homicide bombers. A British commander saying 2 Iraqi soldiers turned themselves into British troops. Those Iraqis apparently claiming they'd been sent there to carry out a homicide attack in Qasr. The commander saying the 2 didn't want to do it, so they gave up. They're now being questioned. American troops finding banned Iraqi missiles. U.S. combat engineers in central Iraq discovering a truck carrying 2 of those Al-Samud missiles. The engineers then testing the missiles for chemical weapons using a live pigeon that they brought with them. No chemical agents found. Those troops also capturing Iraqi soldiers forced into combat.
Did these guys meet that picture? Did they seem like people who wouldn't normally be soldiers but maybe were forced into fighting?
Yes, they did. That's exactly. I asked them actually that question, and they said Saddam himself actually makes them take the weapons, and almost all males at a certain age are forced to fight.
And remember, Iraq required to destroy all of these missiles under UN Resolution 1441. We now know they missed at least 2. More blasting on the northern front as Fox reports tonight. A U.S.-led air assault pounding Iraqi front-line positions in northern Iraq. The strikes lasting throughout the night and into the daylight hours. The strikes you're seeing here near the Iranian border. Kurds in the region watching the whole thing from a nearby town. All these hits taking their toll on Iraqi forces, we're told. Iraqi troops in one northern town said to be simply taking off and leaving some interesting things behind.
We have found various documents, equipment, etc., that would indicate a presence of chemical and/or biological weapons. Most of the samples that have been taken are being flown back to the States for further study and for testing.
Study and testing that could possibly prove what the White House has been saying all along. Saddam does have weapons of mass destruction. Team Fox coverage continues with America at War. Chris Klein live on the video phone and the night scope in northern Iraq. Chris?
Shepard, another day of punishing air raids by Allied air power, especially, as you mentioned, around the northern Iraqi cities of Kirkuk and Mosul. Here from our vantage point in Kalak, all of 1,000 yards away from a 5-mile-long stretch of Iraqi front, we ourselves witnessed firsthand devastating precision raid by Allied air power. We watched in quick succession about a half a dozen explosions, saw some massive bomb flashes, some very tall plumes of smoke emanating particularly from one target which received special attention tonight, command and control, a communications bunker that was utterly devastated. And after this Allied air raid, we saw no anti-aircraft fire from the Iraqi side, and indeed no return ground fire as well. Rather harrowing as well. We listened for some time to the screams of some of the wounded and dying, one presumes, Iraqi soldiers. Now, further south in this autonomous region, closer to the Iranian frontier, progress against the extremists of Ansar al-Islam continuing steadily. Kurdish forces working very closely with Western Special Operations troops report now a total of 250 confirmed Ansar KIA. Again, all of the key positions overrun. And if you'll permit me to violate light discipline a little bit, 4 major leaders of Ansar surrendered today on the Iranian side. Mullah Abdullah Shafia, one of the top military commanders of Ansar, Ajub Afghani, the leader of its political branch, and most interestingly, Abu Wa'il, the long suspected ideological and spiritual leader of Ansar, as well as the alleged link to Iraqi intelligence, himself a former Iraqi intelligence officer. A very impressive day here in the north for Allied forces. Shepard.
Klein in northern Iraq. Chris, we'll get back to you, but there is breaking news now on Fox News Channel. Bombs over Baghdad and new explosions in the center of the city, and some of the biggest explosions we have seen to date. The pictures coming in right now on Al Jazeera television are even more impressive. They show smoke throughout the night sky and a number of explosions, and there it is with these pictures courtesy of Al Jazeera. Brett Baer breaking the news, for us at least, on Fox News Channel, that the major ground offensive, which will eventually lead to Baghdad, has begun tonight. And now you're seeing the air campaign, which continues as well. A number of explosions on the ground. At this, as we wait for the astounding news, or outstanding at least news from Central Command, that one of our POWs has been rescued inside Iraq. We will not give the details of that just yet, but we will give you the headline, though we had planned not to. Others did, and we had to. We can't censor things from you, especially when it's good news. And it is some of the best news yet. We've now been told that we are just about a minute to a minute and a half away from that Central Command briefing as we watch the smoke rising over the city of Baghdad. News cycles have been running in 4-hour stretches recently. Some of the headlines from early morning no longer even exist. Trumping all tonight, the fact that a POW has been rescued and the ground offensive, which will eventually lead to Baghdad, is underway. Standing in the way, at least for the time being, is the battle at Karbala, which is that city some 40-50 miles to the south and slightly east of Baghdad, where we are confronted, we're told by the Pentagon, with the Medina division of the Iraqi Republican Guard. On top of Medina, there's also the Baghdad division. Some 5 to 6 divisions in all, which will eventually be encountered. But first to Central Command and that news for which we've been waiting.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a short statement to make, and I will not be taking any questions. Coalition forces have conducted a successful rescue mission of a U.S. Army prisoner of war held captive in Iraq. The soldier has been returned to a coalition-controlled area. More details will be released as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
You don't tell us anything, sir? So details will come when they can come, but that headline is quite a good one, isn't it? David Lee Miller standing by at Central Command in Doha for us. Worth getting up for at 29 minutes past 3 a.m., I'm guessing, David?
Well, that's right, Shepard, but I have to admit a lot of the press corps was still here at this hour, although many were awakened. This was a big shock to a number of people here at CENTCOM. About an hour and a half ago, word spread that there was going to be a news conference, highly unusual at this hour of the morning here in Qatar. And for the last almost hour and a half, we have waited. And as you mentioned, the cat was out of the bag. Word quickly spread through other sources that, in fact, it appeared a POW had been extracted. And as we heard just a short time ago, that now appears to be the case. A prisoner of war has been rescued from behind enemy lines. The name of that POW and further details were not released. I expect that we will learn more in the next few hours, but Vince Brooks, General Vince Brooks, the Brigadier General who holds the briefings in this room almost every day, obviously pleased by this latest news. No questions at this time, Shepard, but I expect that once this POW's family is notified of the details and the authorities here themselves learn exactly what happened, it tends to be a pretty slow process at times disseminating the information here at CENTCOM. They want to make sure they get it right. We will know exactly what happened. But at the same time, Shep, we have to be mindful that he said one POW had been rescued. That still leaves 6 others that remain in the custody of the Iraqis. Back to you in New York.
Indeed they do. And our thoughts certainly with their families and with them. And the hope is we'll have this kind of good news for all of them before it's all over with. We'll take you back to Central Command for breaking developments. We're live throughout prime time tonight. Our late night coverage continues live as well, and we're live for a West Coast prime time. I'll be back with you tonight, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Pacific, for all the late breaking developments as the march toward Baghdad, as Bret Baier reports tonight, has officially begun. We are hearing a chilling explanation for why a suicide bomber killed 4 American soldiers this past weekend at that coalition checkpoint inside Iraq, and why a van full of civilians went speeding through that same checkpoint. U.S. Central Command now says its troops were forced to open fire on the van, killing 7 women and children. And apparently, that's exactly how Saddam Hussein planned it. A Fox report now from Adam Housley, who's live in our Kuwait City newsroom. Adam?
Shep, Iraqis and people here in Kuwait aren't surprised at all. The latest intel, Saddam Hussein's troops forcing their own people to commit suicide, women and children included. We first heard of these reports prior to the cab driver blowing himself up along with 4 Marines. The Iraqis claim his family was rewarded with thousands of dollars for the act. But those who come from the area of South Iraq tell a much different story. This influential Muslim cleric says families have been threatened with mass killings over the last couple of years and even chemical attacks if they don't act and don't sacrifice themselves. The latest, 7 women and children.
Those people, children and women, those were put in the bus by Saddam Hussein's forces, and their men, being husbands or fathers, those were taken hostages, and the driver was ordered to speed up at the checkpoint and not stop so that they would be shot at.
As we see more pictures to the left of me of the bombing of Baghdad, the fall of Basra is here. That according to the Royal Scots as well as the Royal Marines. The British fighting to control that area of Basra since the ground war began some 10 days ago. They overcame RPG fire today as well as sniper fire to secure some of the areas. And here across the border in Kuwait, the humanitarian effort continuing, Shep. Large military choppers taking loads of water as well as food across the border. It's just part of the convoy that continues to help people in the south without water, without much food, since a lot of the area was sabotaged by retreating Iraqi forces. Shep?
Adam Housley, live for us in Kuwait City. So who is the rescued prisoner of war? Bret Baier's live at the Pentagon with that information. Bret, good evening.
Well, Shep, we can't give you the name as of yet. Obviously, Central Command is going to be releasing that name, but it's important to point out that there are 2 different categories here. There are prisoners of war, 7 listed prisoners of war. 2 of them were the Apache helicopter pilots that we saw on Iraqi TV, and 5 of them were with the 507th Mechanized Company from Fort Bliss, Texas, that we also saw after that ambush of the convoy near An-Nasiriyah. There is another category, however. It is called duty status whereabouts unknown. There was a list of those on that essentially are whereabouts unknown, and it is possible that this rescue happened from that list, that they did not appear on television, however, that this rescue happened. We're getting more information by the minute. We'll get it for you from Central Command ASAP. Right now, what is happening, just so you know, a lot of notification of next of kin, the families being notified, and the Pentagon, Central Command being very careful as far as what they release and who this is. A lot of families obviously watching, wanting to know, and they will get official word first before you hear it here. Sure.
All right, Bret, thank you very much. We have a pretty good idea of who this is, and we want it to be triple checked. So we're going to get it triple checked, and the moment we're 100% sure, we'll tell you who it is. So that's that. tonight, all coming up. But first, so-called JSTARS. They're the Joint Surveillance Target Attack Radar System. Think of it as a hardcore sort of intel from above, which troops on the ground can then use on the fly. Let's get a Fox report now from Jonathan Serry, who's live and from Robins Air Force Base in Warner Robins, Georgia. Hello, Jonathan.
Hi, Shepard. Well, earlier in the day, 2 of the JSTARS took off from Robins Air Force Base here in central Georgia, and they are now heading into the Persian Gulf. For the 2 planes are carrying roughly 50 specialists, not just from the Air Force, but also from the U.S. Army and also from the Georgia Air National Guard.
We have a lot of impact on what's going on, so I just want to get over there and try to include myself in it and help out with what we can.
The main role that I perform is to support the ground commanders, to give them a better picture of the battlefield or the elements around them.
Right now, you're looking at one of 15 aircraft in the JSTARS fleet. It's called an E-8C. It's basically a modified Boeing 707. Now, the canoe-shaped bubble underneath the front fuselage encases a giant radar capable of monitoring ground activity more than 150 miles into enemy territory. High-speed computers allow specialists on board the aircraft to watch the movement of both friendly and enemy forces on the ground in real time. What you see here is a simulator, but during an actual mission, these specialists would be in constant communication with Allied forces down below. Now, the JSTARS were first used during the original war in the Gulf back in 1991. 12 years later, these aircraft are headed back to the region armed with much better technology. Shep, back to you.
All right, Jonathan Serry live for us. Jonathan, thanks. We're still watching the smoke rise over Baghdad. We're told that a number of strikes have been carried out tonight. In addition, we've been told of a fierce battle raging at Karbala, which, as I mentioned, is south and east of Baghdad, and we are still expecting to get further information during this hour about this fierce fight between the United States and coalition forces and the Medina division of the Iraqi Republican Guard. So the moment that briefing comes up, we'll take you there live. And in the meantime, mine sweeping on the high seas. Coalition forces taking care of mines left by Iraqi forces in the waters leading to Qasr, clearing the way so humanitarian aid can get through. Here's how it works. The MK-106 simulates the sounds and magnetic trail of an actual ship, tricking the mines into exploding. A jet engine powers the sled, and a Navy helicopter guides it through the water. Smaller ships like the USS Raven clearing mines closer to Qasr. The 188-foot ship is the smallest in the Navy's fleet, made entirely of glass-reinforced plastic, so it moves through the water without tripping the mines. The ship leaves a bomb behind, so when all is clear, the mine is blowing up. And continuing coverage live over Baghdad as more explosions have been seen. I can now report to you that we do have now triple and quadruple and all the rest confirmed who this POW is. And her name is Jessica Lynch. She is the one, the lone female who was seen on the videotape being interrogated on videotape from Iraqi state-run television. As you know, that videotape was released to Al Jazeera television. Al Jazeera ran it in the Arab world and to some 100,000 or so subscribers, whom I'm told they have in North America. Jessica Lynch is the name. We never showed that video, and for now at least, we won't. Jessica Lynch has been rescued. The details of all of that are coming into me even as we speak. While we continue to look at Jessica, who has been rescued alive by some operation which we can't describe, I can tell you that she was active duty supply clerk with the 507th Maintenance Company based in Fort Bliss, Texas. And of all places, there is bliss in Fort Bliss tonight. It happened, of course, on March 23rd near Nasiriyah, as I'm sure you know. That was when this maintenance company, instead of taking a left, took a right, as it's been described to us, and instead of ending up where they were supposed to be, ended up in the clutches of the enemy. And as it turned out, they were all taken hostage. What I wonder tonight is how it was that they got her and were not able to get the rest, or did they get the rest, or is the operation still ongoing? Let's check in with Brett Baer once again at the Pentagon to see what he knows. Brett, what do you know?
Hey, Shep, as far as the operation, we're just getting sketchy details that it was a Ranger and Navy SEALs operation. A couple of sources telling us that. However, I do want to talk about Miss Lynch, if I could. Jessica Lynch, 19 years old. She's from Palestine, West Virginia. She was a supply clerk with the 507th Maintenance Company out of Fort Bliss, Texas. Her father has confirmed that he has been notified. Obviously, Palestine, West Virginia, a very happy place tonight. There was a lot of concern, as you can imagine, in that small town. It's about 70 miles north of Charleston, West Virginia, small farm county, Wirt County, I'm told, and not a big place. They had yellow ribbons around the trees over the past days since the announcement that she had been missing. Now, she was in this list of what's called duty status whereabouts unknown. Now, these are the people that the U.S. military had not seen and confirmed were prisoners of war. And we understand that she was rescued 4 hours ago, according to sources at the White House. So we are getting more details as we speak. Obviously, Central Command was not releasing a lot about the operation as of yet, but we expect to hear more. Sources telling Fox that it was a dual Ranger, Army Rangers and Navy SEAL operation near the town of Al-Nasiriyah. Getting some more details as we speak, and we'll, of course, bring them to you. But obviously, Jessica Lynch, now in U.S. hands, has been rescued, and Greg Lynch, her father, a very happy man tonight.
Oh, man, I bet he is. You know, Brett, I was just describing this person as the one from the videotape that the Iraqis had, and I'm told that's not right. That was the group that took the turn there and ended up in the wrong place. This is another POW entirely. Sorry about that.
Well, that's right. And it's, you know, an interesting thing, Shep, and one of the things we're trying to figure out as this all develops here, she was with the 507th Machinist Company out of Fort Bliss, the same company that we saw those people on Iraqi TV, 5 of them, and it's unclear whether she was taken away from that group, whether she was being held by another set of captors. That is all, you're sketchy right now, and we'll bring you the latest as we get it.
All right, Brett, I'm told that one of our staffers has spoken with the family of Jessica Lynch, and I'm also told that Rita Cosby is calling in, but what I'm not clear on is whether she's connected to us yet.
Shep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hey, Rita, go ahead. What do you know?
Shep, I just spoke to the family of Jessica Lynch. In fact, I talked to them about an hour and a half ago, and they were elated. In fact, they had just gotten the call about 2 minutes before from Central Command and a number of other officials. And Greg Lynch, who's the father of Jessica Lynch, was in tears. It was just a really beautiful, incredible moment to hear some wonderful news during this war. And he said that they were told that she was safe and sound, that she is in theater, meaning probably in Qatar in that area, and will be taken to Ramstein Air Force Base, and that she was in good spirits. And was able to talk quite a bit about her ordeal. We were told, in fact, a couple days ago that this operation might be in the works. We did not share it on Fox News on purpose because we did not want to compromise the operation. But we were told a couple days ago that Army Rangers and Navy SEALs had gotten some word that through intelligence they had gotten word of the exact building, in fact, the exact room that Jessica Lynch was being held in Al-Nasiriyah. In fact, had gotten word about a doctor who was treating her there, which is a good sign that apparently she was getting some sort of care. As you were talking about with Brett there, she was obviously involved in that ambush, which happened on March 23rd, when the whole 507th Maintenance Company, a division of it, a good portion of it, was ambushed by enemy forces. And we were told that she was injured at the time, but it sounds like she was getting some treatment by whoever her captors were. I'm not clear if it was the Fedayeen or if it was the Iraqi military, but we had gotten word that they were actually going to go in on this covert operation. They were able to get a read on her, and that they've been watching it basically for the last 24 to 48 hours, and then they got word that they were okay to go in. And I was told that the operation was successful around 4 p.m. Eastern Time today, was when they actually were able to retrieve her. And then just about an hour or so ago, I did speak with Greg Lynch, who was very happy. He said to me, "This is a miracle. We are so thrilled that our daughter is coming home." So wonderful news all the way around.
Rita, that is outstanding news. Rita, thanks very much. So Jessica Lynch, rescued POW. She was officially listed as missing in action, at least until a couple of days ago. The other female prisoner of war is Shoshana Johnson. She was the one who was whose interview was shown on Al Jazeera television, but not here. Hopefully, at some point in the very near future, we'll be able to have breaking news on that one as well. In addition, the bombing in Baghdad has continued. 6 large explosions heard just in the last few minutes in central Baghdad, and I'm told at least that these are some of the fiercest strikes of all. As Bret Baier mentioned, and we've continued to mention, a fierce battle rages at Karbala, and this bombing could be in advance of that. Bret Baier reporting here tonight that, in fact, the ground move toward Baghdad begins tonight. Saddam Hussein's regime revealing all sorts of brutality against its own people as this war goes on, forcing citizens to fight or face execution in some cases, according to reports from the region. He's also using children as human shields, according to our own military on the ground, and storing weapons and ammunition in school classrooms. Saddam's dirty tricks now, in a Fox report from the senior correspondent Eric Shawn, who's live in our newsroom in New York. Eric.
Well, Shepard, the government says the list of Iraqi war atrocities is growing. From trying to gun down its own citizens to planting kids on Iraqi troop trucks to faking those surrenders and deploying suicide bombers, the litany of Saddam's devious tactics have even stunned war planners, and they are becoming more desperate as coalition troops advance on Baghdad, an operation, we're told, from the Pentagon that began tonight. You're looking at video from Basra of Iraqis opening fire on their own people. This as British troops try to secure the city. Not surprising when you consider the reports of Iraqi men being told to fight or face immediate execution by their own government if they refuse. Of Saddam recruiting boys as young as 10 years old to die for him and the ruthlessness of their treatment of POWs. The Pentagon suspects some American POWs may have been shot to death after they were captured and dismembered, their bodies dumped in a shallow grave. It is a regime, says U.S. forces, that puts the unarmed, innocent women and children out front, trying to have the allies kill as many citizens as possible for propaganda purposes to spread through the Arab world.
The enemy just recently was using human shields on the far side of the bridge. As they were bringing their gun trucks up, they put women and children in front of the gun trucks.
Now, the Iraqis have also continued to obstruct International Red Cross visits for the American POWs that they claim to hold. This is the Red Cross has visited the Iraqis that we have detained. But despite that contradiction, Saddam's UN ambassador Mohammed al-Duri denies his government commits atrocities and claims it is honoring the Geneva Convention on a night that this country can celebrate that one of those detained, Jessica Lynch, apparently now free. Shepard?
Free at last. Eric Shawn live in our New York newsroom. Eric, thanks a lot. Congress a little bit closer now to giving President Bush billions of dollars for a down payment on the war, but it wants a say in how he spends it. House and Senate committees signing off on a supplemental budget of almost $80 billion. The president requested 75, but both bills restricting the amount of money that the administration can spend without the okay from Congress. And as the debate on paying for the war goes on, the U.S. and the United Kingdom are working together to prepare for the possibility of simultaneous terror attacks in the two countries. Homeland Security Secretary Tom Ridge meeting with British Home Secretary David Blunkett. Ridge stressing that there are no specific threats, but that the countries are getting ready nonetheless.
I think it makes eminent good sense for two allies that are working together to develop best practices, two allies and friends working together on the science and technology of detection and protection.
Thank you. The plan is to share intelligence and suspects and how to deal with the specific types of terror attacks. Fox Report now from Caroline Shively, who's live in D.C. Caroline?
Hi, Shep. The U.S. and U.K. are developing joint exercises to deal with the unthinkable terrorist attacks on both countries at the same time. Homeland Security Director Tom Ridge met with his British counterpart today to work out a plan to improve border control, prevent cyber attacks, and handle possible radiological and chemical attacks. Secretary Ridge said the U.S. is already doing a good job keeping the country safe, but he wants to do more. One way he plans to do that is sharing more intelligence information with Britain.
The United Kingdom has extensive experience in battling the challenge of terrorism at home. This relationship will benefit the strong homeland security partnership that our countries have developed since the attacks on our country on September 11th.
Secretary Ridge also urged
starting at Rumsfeld, with their own top generals in the field. When you have William Wallace, the top field commander.
Democrats want to add another $4.8 billion.
Coalition-controlled territory, and as Wolf mentioned, she was assigned as a supply clerk to the 507th Maintenance Division, Fort Bliss, Texas. Now, it is interesting to note the lone female POW at this hour is Shoshana Johnson. She was a Army chef, although she also trained in mechanics after enlisting in 1998. And I actually spoke with one of her relatives this morning who is hoping that Reverend Jesse Jackson will lead an effort to try to encourage the Red Cross to make some kind of contact with these American POWs being held in Iraq. So far, most of the contact that has been made has been done through the Iraqi mission here in the United States. No movement at all, although U.S. government officials are hopeful that we may see some sort of Red Cross intervention at some point. Now, with so many new events and battles breaking out in Iraq today, we're going to take a quick check of the latest developments in the war in Iraq.
9:11 a.m. Eastern Time. CNN's Martin Savage, traveling with 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, offers up new video of the Marines searching an industrial complex in south-central Iraq. It's part of their campaign against paramilitary units, so-called death squads, that are disrupting coalition supply lines. 11:05 a.m. CNN's Barbara Starr reporting from the Pentagon. General Tommy Franks, chief of the U.S. Central Command, has been given authority to decide when to move on Baghdad without waiting for an okay from the president or the Secretary of Defense. 11:15 a.m. 9 U.S. troops injured in combat arrive at Ramstein Air Base, Germany. Noon Eastern Time, 9 p.m. in Baghdad, Iraq's information ministry urges Iraqis to take their chance for immortality by fighting U.S.-led troops. 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 journalists who disappeared from a Baghdad hotel a week ago turn up safe in Jordan. A reporter and photographer from Newsday and 2 other freelance photographers are reported in good health. 2:31 p.m. Eastern, Joint Chiefs Chairman Richard Myers says 2 Iraqi Republican Guard divisions around Baghdad have been reduced to about half their fighting capability by U.S. air, artillery, and ground attacks. 2:58 p.m., Secretary of State Colin Powell arrives in Turkey to talk about continued cooperation in the war in Iraq.
So with British and U.S. troops locked in bloody battles in central Iraq and 2 ground offensives being launched against Iraq's Medina forces, coalition forces are gearing up for a siege on Baghdad. A major obstacle could be the Karbala Gap, which we've heard a lot about tonight. It is a region full of lakes and valleys south of the capital that could choke troop movements. Let's bring back our Miles O'Brien in Atlanta and retired Brigadier General David Grange in Chicago for some perspective. Good evening, gentlemen.
Thanks very much, Paula. Paula, the Karbala Gap, you know, when you look at Baghdad on the map, you might have the sense that it's a fairly easy city to approach for armored and for infantry and for the U.S. military in general. It may not be as simple as it looks. David Grange, give us a sense of some of the obstacles that are there and why Karbala, in some sense, becomes a choke point.
Well, Karbala, as you know, is located just south of one of the large lakes or reservoirs on the western side of Iraq. There's 2 major reservoirs to the west of Iraq. And then to the east, or Baghdad, excuse me, to the east of Baghdad, of course, you have the mountain ranges. And then north of Baghdad, you have Tikrit and a major highway moving north and south. And then the southern approach, like the coalition forces are engaged in now, is you have the Tigris River and the Euphrates River, and you have a series of canals in that. So Baghdad itself is located geographically in a it's rather tough accessibility to approach Baghdad with large military forces.
All right, I've drawn on a big view here. I've drawn with some pretty bad handwriting there. There's Baghdad circled in red, and there's a blue arrow indicating the rough direction of coalition forces. And I want to highlight here for you, there is the Euphrates River, and right around in here is the Tigris River. Without giving away state secrets here, we can presume, General Grange, that a fair number of the forces would be coming from that direction?
Well, that's one of the avenues of approach. There's several. That's one of the avenues of approach. Of course, the reservoir, the lake to the west has a piece of key terrain, a dam, That's key. Karbala area has several bridge sites that are key. And so as you look at the two rivers, the lake, the built-up areas and a series of canals and berms along the roads where they have irrigation, it's still a challenging movement to get into southern Baghdad from the south and as well as from the west. So obviously the Republican Guards are going to defend it using the geographical advantages of where Baghdad's located.
All right, now what I've drawn here, there's Baghdad right there. We're kind of looking down to the south. This is the lake that is farthest north. Tharthar is it, and as best we can tell from looking at the satellite imagery here through the help of our friends at earthviewer.com, you've got a dam here which certainly could be something that could be breached if it was deemed strategically something that would want to be done by the Iraqis. You go to this next one, this next lake, a little smaller body of water. It apparently has a dam down on this end. And finally, this lake that is farthest to the south, closest to this gap, Karbala, has the dam right there. And if it were breached, it would spill water all into this valley. Would that completely slow down the advance of U.S. and coalition forces?
Well, it could slow down, Miles. It would slow down the advance, but it would not stop it. It's just, again, another obstacle that the coalition forces would have to contend with. These things are taken in consideration on any type of offensive operation, weather terrain, and the enemy force disposition. So that's one of the considerations. But the Karbala area is a key area. I'm sure it's critical to the coalition forces, and they're probably taking advantage where they can of the terrain, just like the Iraqi Republican Guards doing the same.
All right, so these three dams are probably critical. Would it be accurate to say that that would be high priority items for special forces to secure in advance somehow?
It's key terrain. I would think that someone would secure that or deny the enemy's use of that to do something to the dams.
All right, so in the march toward Baghdad, it seems as if this Karbala Gap is something to consider as being a very key piece of territory.
Very key.
All right, David Grange, retired Brigadier General of the United States Army. Thanks very much for being with us. Paula.
Thanks so much, Miles. We're going to keep our eye focused on downtown Baghdad. It was just about 45 minutes or so. We heard a number of reports suggesting a series of explosions being heard. Reuters confirming that 2 bombs hit presidential palace of Saddam Hussein, a place that housed not only his son's office, but in addition to that, some of the offices of the Republican Guard. As soon as we get more information on that, we will bring it to you live. Wolf? Oh, excuse me. We've got Bob Franken up, who is standing by at an air base. We've heard so much, Bob, about some of the increased air activity over the last couple hours. What's going on there now?
Well, at the moment, we're relying on figures now that ended in the morning. What we have is the same kind of intensity we've had for the last couple of days, close to 2,000 airstrikes, about 800 actual strikes. The rest of them are supportive, like refueling and airlifts and the like. But what's interesting is, about two-thirds of them, about two-thirds of the strikes are against Republican Guard units, two-thirds of them. And of course, the Republican Guards are the key. Everybody has always considered that those would be the key battles. A number of those 800 flights, about 50 of them were aimed at key spots in Baghdad, command and control and the like. That is, of course, a rather large amount. It has been a consistent amount, and that's what they seem to be getting in Baghdad this evening. Meanwhile, there's been such a quick turnaround. The A-10 flights continue to come in and out. We're told that there's about a half-hour turnaround. They will go out on a flight. They will spend the time that they spend in the air. They will come back. The maintenance men operate just like some racetrack somewhere, and they turn them around in about a half hour, and off they go again. The A-10s, of course, are for the strikes against the Republican Guards. The different kinds of planes that are used, the bigger planes are used for the strikes in Baghdad. But there has been a focus on Baghdad. It has been consistent. What we'll have to watch for as the days go on is if that number increases as plans continue for a final strike on Baghdad. Paula?
Bob Franken, thanks so much for the update. We'll be getting back to you throughout the evening. That wraps up this hour of our special coverage this evening. Wolf and I will be back at the top of the next hour. Time to check in with Heidi Collins, who brings you up to date on the headlines. Good evening, Heidi.
Good evening, Paula, and thank you. Significant developments at this hour, beginning with news about an American POW in the war in Iraq. Just under an hour ago, CENTCOM announced a U.S. Army prisoner of war has been rescued in Iraq and returned to a coalition-controlled area. CNN has confirmed she is 19-year-old Private First Class Jessica Lynch of Palestine, West Virginia. Lynch was officially listed as missing in action after an ambush near Nasiriyah, March 23rd. A major offensive is underway in what could be the beginning of the Battle of Baghdad. U.S. forces near the city of Karbala are engaged in fierce fighting with Republican Guard troops. The holy Shiite city is about 50 miles south of Baghdad. Less than an hour ago, more explosions shook Baghdad after a relatively quiet day. Reuters reports 2 bombs hit the presidential compound, which has been targeted in the last several days. Coalition troops closing in on Baghdad now await word to charge into the capital city. CNN's Barbara Starr reports U.S. Central Command Chief Tommy Franks has been given the green light to begin the assault and says it'll happen when the U.S. has the tactical advantage. In other news now, a sigh of relief for 3 American Airlines passengers who reported symptoms similar to acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS as you've heard it called. The plane was grounded in California as they were checked out at a hospital, and it was determined they were not at risk for the disease. SARS has killed more than 60 people worldwide, mainly in Asia. The flight originated from Tokyo. The Centers for Disease Control says it's 90% sure it has isolated the virus that causes SARS. It says a new species of coronavirus is more than likely the culprit. This news could speed up the progress in fighting the disease. And at the hour ahead, a comprehensive look at how this day in the war in Iraq unfolded. A look at fighting in day 14 of the war in the north, south, and in central Iraq. The battle for Baghdad itself could come at any time. The general in charge gets the go-ahead to move. And who's in charge in Iraq? Is it still Saddam Hussein? We'll find out. Coming up.
Live from the front lines, the timeline that created today's headlines. 7 a.m. Doha, Qatar. The U.S. military says it's investigating the deadly shooting of Iraqi civilians.
No one's killing more Iraqis right now than the regime.
Were the Iraqis using them as human shields? 11 a.m. Basra. A stunning array of flares lights up the skies over Iraq's second biggest city. What were coalition forces looking for in the darkness of Basra? 12 o'clock noon, Baghdad. A message from President Saddam Hussein, delivered by one of his ministers. So how come Hussein didn't read the statement himself? 1 p.m. Jordan. 3 missing American journalists found alive.
I speak for everyone that we're all incredibly grateful.
What happened to them during their week-long ordeal? All the day's pivotal moments in perspective. Live from the front lines, day 14. From Kuwait City, Wolf Blitzer. From New York, Paula Zahn.
And good evening, welcome. You're looking at a live picture of Baghdad right now, 8 o'clock Eastern time, just before dawn, 5 a.m. in the Iraqi capital, after another night punctuated by the familiar blast of bombs falling outside and inside the city. Reuters confirming that one of Saddam Hussein's presidential complexes hit, a place that not only housed some of the Republican Guard offices, but the offices of his son Qusay as well. It is not the first time this compound has been hit. It has been pounded for several days. I'm Paula Zahn in New York. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm joined by my colleague Wolf Blitzer, who's standing by in Kuwait City tonight. Good evening, Wolf.
Good evening, Paula. Over the next hour, we're going to show our viewers exactly how day 14 of the war in Iraq has unfolded, and we'll show it precisely as it happened. Plus, in our second half hour, the mystery that deepened today. Where is Iraqi President Saddam Hussein? Is he dead? If he's wounded, is he still in control? We'll talk to the man who wrote the book on Saddam Hussein. And if you think Saddam Hussein's death would be the death of his regime, think again. Bill Schneider will take us inside the Iraqi organization that perfected Saddam's tactics before his rise to power. Paula?
Thanks so much. Well, first, we want to bring you up to date on some of the latest developments on the ground in Iraq. Within the last hour, U.S. Central Command announced the successful rescue of a soldier missing in action in Iraq. It was 19-year-old Private First Class Jessica Lynch, who, as we mentioned, had been designated as missing for more than a week after an ambush near Nasiriyah. According to her family, she is now in a coalition hospital. And early Wednesday Iraqi time, U.S. Marines battling for Nasiriyah switched tactics, no longer just responding to ambushes. The 15th Artillery went on the offensive to root out paramilitary units loyal to Baghdad, targeting the headquarters there of Saddam's party and calling in new airstrikes. We'll have more on that later about an even bigger shift in strategy. Baghdad, but also tonight CNN's Harris Whitback reports that a U.S. Navy F-14 crashed in southwest Iraq today. Both pilots bailed out. Both were rescued. Let's go to Jason Bellini, who's standing by near Nasiriyah with an update on what is going on at these early hours of the morning Iraq time. Jason, thanks for joining us. What's the latest?
Thank you, Paula. Paula, now that CENTCOM has announced the rescue of a POW, we can tell you that that rescue effort by Marine Special Forces was concurrent to the offensive operation the Marines we're with are are still involved with now. This operation done in conjunction to distract attention from the area across the river where the rescue operation was taking place. But this operation itself designed to go into the city and to remove Saddam loyalists from this area of the city. They're using helicopter gunships, tanks, infantry, Marines, hitting specific targets, as you just reported. They've hit the Ba'ath Party headquarters as one of their initial targets, as well as what we're told is the residence of a Saddam loyalist, one of Saddam's cronies, as they call him. Paula?
All right, Jason, come back to a point you were making earlier about the Marine Special Forces. You say the rescue of the soldier missing in action was concurrent with some of this activity in and around Nasiriyah. Are you telling me there was a connection between the two actions here?
That's correct, Paula. You can probably hear helicopters flying overhead right now as part of this operation. They were using... I hope you can still hear me. Paul, can you still hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's correct. Again, the design of this operation was to make a loud presence, a loud, very visible presence on the south side of the Euphrates River, which is where we are now. They used artillery, they used mortar rounds, bombs that were dropped from overhead. Helicopters were putting on a light show by firing to various locations in the city. So I imagine that there are very few people who didn't lose a little bit of sleep tonight living in this area. It was a very loud, very large assault that went on tonight. And again, they did that at exactly the same time as this rescue effort, the successful rescue effort was underway. Paula?
Jason Bellini, thanks so much for that update. Wolf, we're going to go back to you, and I think probably what we need to try to do is clear up some of this confusion over the status of Jessica Lynch. At one point, there was a lot of speculation that she was a prisoner of war, but I guess, Wolf, what we're most comfortable saying, that she was a soldier missing in action. She happened to be with that team that took a bad turn in and around Nasiriyah. Her father has been contacted. He has told CNN that she was indeed transferred to a coalition-controlled facility.
A dramatic rescue operation indeed, Paula. And let's get specific with that 507th Maintenance Company that went astray on March 23rd outside Nasiriyah and apparently got all of the members of that company into some serious trouble. According to the Pentagon, 2 members of the 507th are now listed as killed, dead, killed in action. 5 were listed as prisoners of war. Presumably, those are the 5 that were seen on Al Jazeera and Iraqi television, and they were specifically questioned by Iraqi interrogators on television. 8 others, including 19-year-old Private First Class Jessica Lynch, listed as missing in action. Jessica Lynch now having been successfully rescued by those special operations. A little bit of background about her. She was 19 years old. She joined the military right out of high school, in part because her brother was in the military, and also in part because she didn't think she was going to find a job in West Virginia. Jessica Lynch now back in the control of the U.S. military. Let's move on now. Right now, we want to begin our look at how day 14, namely today, of the war has unfolded. Today's briefing by the U.S. Central Command outside of Doha, Qatar, was significant. That was at 7 a.m. Eastern, and on the top of the agenda was the Iraqi accusation that U.S. forces had, in effect, murdered 7.
That's right, Bill. With me right now is Jim Wilkinson. He is a spokesman, in fact, for CENTCOM, and he can tell us some of the details surrounding the rescue of Jessica Lynch. And this is a rescue that we understand happened only 4 hours ago. What can you tell us about her condition and the circumstances of how she was rescued?
You bet. Well, I can tell you that she's alive and is in coalition control. I can tell you that we've all been up all the night watching this operation. This was kept highly secret, and only a few small people knew. And we're certainly glad to bring one of ours home. America doesn't leave its heroes behind.
I have heard that she was rescued from a hospital in Nasiriyah and that she had been injured. Can you confirm that and offer any elaboration about what those injuries were?
I don't want to get into all the operational details because some operations continue to take place. What I'll say is that this brave young girl was rescued by some very brave coalition forces, brought her out, and she's under coalition control. She was in a hospital, and now she's back where she needs to be.
Was she alone? Were there other POWs with her?
You know, don't want to get into that yet. The situation on the ground is still being sorted out, and we'll certainly have more information to release. This is a fast-breaking story, as you know. We also have other POWs there who we are just as worried about. This is good news today, but we need a lot more good news.
And just to be very clear on this, she was not technically a POW. She was categorized as missing. Is that not right?
I believe so, yes.
From the 507th Mechanized.
Right.
And it's the other 5 people that we've seen on Iraqi TV that are also from her unit that have had their likeness broadcast around the Arab world.
And you can bet we're certainly scouring, looking, and doing everything we can for them as well.
What is the likelihood? I know you don't like to talk about future operations.
From all the conversations the president has had with the planners, this is the plan that was agreed upon, was discussed robustly. Everybody understood what it called for and was checked off on.
And he delivered that statement calmly, Keith, over at the Pentagon. Defense Secretary Rumsfeld and the head of the Joint Chiefs, they were downright angry about all this second-guessing today. Want to tell you that on Thursday, the president hits the road again. He's heading down to Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, going to visit the Marines down there, partly pep rally, partly poignant. Camp Lejeune, 12 of the war dead so far have come from there, 7 of the missing from there as well. Keith?
Bob Kerr live at the White House. Many thanks, Bob. Good night. Next up on the Countdown Rundown, the fog of war. You've heard of that. Now it's the slog of war. What is fast and what is slow? We will compare what has happened in this conflict with those in previous ones as we get a reality check on Operation Iraqi Freedom coming up. 2 worldviews living under one roof, a rare look at the war as it plays out in the hearts and minds of the Arab world. And the day terror hit the U.S., 9/11 memorialized here, but how was it memorialized or celebrated in Iraq? We'll talk to one American who lost his wife that day, and he says an alarming mural found in Iraq is proof this war is just. And now the countdown top newsmakers of the day. 3, a quartet of journalists missing in Iraq, including former Vice President Gore's photographer Molly Bingham. Found. 2, Don Rumsfeld. No ceasefire, no deal, just unconditional surrender. And 1, if 80% of life is showing up, Saddam Hussein is down to 20%. Saddam's guest hosts next week include... The countdown continues.